Hi guys, my name is Corey Simmons. I'm the creator of the Jeet Framework. I did a tutorial here a few weeks ago and got a lot of good response about Jeet, so I thought I'd do another one. Um, and I wanted to tell you about some cool stuff that's happened with it. Oscar Zamorowski was nice enough to port it to Sass. There were a lot of people asking for a Sass port to it, and Oscar stood up and took charge of that, and he's been helping out with it ever since. So props to Oscar. And then also Gabriel Manrix, who's another Tuts Plus author who's written all kinds of stuff over at NetTuts. He made an NPM package for it, which is totally awesome. And he also just had a book come out called Meteor JavaScript Framework Starter. So if you're interested in Meteor, I just read that book and it's definitely worth it. So check that out. And without further ado, we'll get started with the new and improved Jeet. So now the only things that it depends on now are Node.js and Compass. So if you go to nodejs.org, click install or downloads, and then follow like their packages to install it. It's very simple to install Node.js, so I won't run through that with you. And Compass, if you're on a Mac, Macs come pre-installed with Ruby, so you just have to run these two commands, and you'll get Compass on your system. And then if you're not on a Mac, you're on Windows, you might not have Ruby. If that's the case, go to rubyinstaller.org and just download and run through the, again, super easy installer, and then come back and run these two commands. And then you'll have all of the prerequisites to run the new Jeet npm package. So if we open up a terminal, cd to whatever directory we want, and run npm. We didn't have to navigate to a directory first, but anyway. So we run npm install, pass it the G flag for globally, and type Jeet. What the global flag does is it lets you run this from anywhere on your system. So you no longer have to go make trips to GitHub or anything like that. It'll grab the latest version of Jeet from GitHub whenever you create a new project with Jeet. Some of the things it installs are Compass, our Stylus, which is a CSS preprocessor. You already have Sass on your system from where we installed Compass, but this also depends on Compass. Installs nib. Nib is like Compass for Stylus. They're basically the same. I think nib's got like a little bit cleaner syntax, but probably doesn't have as much stuff that it can do. And then it also installs live reload. I forgot to show you this, but if you just Google live reload, click on browser extensions, and then find the browser that you're using. If you're using Internet Explorer, too bad. But yeah, just install the browser extension. Whenever you install the browser extension, right click on your extensions and go to Manage Extensions, and then go down to the live reload thing and check the allow access to file URLs, and that's it. Okay, so now we've got the Jeet package installed. We've got Compass, we've got Node, we've got live reload, we've got everything we need, and it didn't take a second, and most of that stuff you probably already have. So anyway, now if you type in Jeet and pass it the H flag for help, it'll show you Jeet's usage. You can create a project, you can watch a project, and what watch does is it watches your Sass and your Stylus files at the same time. So you can be editing, Stylus and doing whatever you want in there, and then move over to Sass and do whatever you want there, and never have to worry about having like a couple tabs open or anything like that. Like all your error outputs are all in the same place. It's nice. And but if you're absolutely positive you'll never use Stylus, you can just pass it the C flag, and it won't it won't compile stylus, and vice versa. If you're positive you're never going to use Sass, you can just pass the T flag, and it won't compile Sass. So now all that's done, let's get to the fun stuff. So say Jeet create foo, and foo is the name of our project. And we'll cd into foo, and now we'll just do Jeet watch. So it's watching and compiling the stylus and the Sass. So now, if we open up our text editor of choice, import that foo project, and then open it up. Now we can start editing our Sass and stylus. So, one of the things I wanted to show you was if one of these ends up like overriding the other one, you can alternate where these are. Like if you're trying to write Sass and it's getting overwritten by your stylus, then you can just move the Sass file below your compiled stylus file, and it works better like that. But what I like to do is to go into Sass, use some cool plugins and stuff, and do like a bunch of boilerplate setting up stuff with like all of Sass's awesome plugins that it has available to it. And then I like to go into stylus afterwards and do like all of my customization stuff, just because I prefer stylus's syntax. But let's just test to make sure we've got everything working. Make a little H1 tag there that says hello world. And okay, cool. So now if we remove world and we save it, the live reload thing should remove world, but it doesn't because it's not turned on yet. You have to have something that's like, trying to connect to the live reload port, and that's our Jeet watch command over here. It's trying to talk to that port, but it's not answering over here. So if we click this button there and darken that little dot in the middle, now it's listening. So now if we save, we don't have to refresh over there, and it just automatically updates, which is pretty cool. Like there's a slight lag to it, but if you're just saving every now and then, and it's pretty neat to be able to put your browser on one side, your editor on the other, and be able to edit, and then in a couple seconds later, like see all these changes popping up just as you're doing it. It's very nice. So anyway, I'll show you my what I like to do now with Sass and stylus. So like I said, Sass has a bunch of really cool things to it, a bunch of plugins for it that stylus just doesn't have yet. So one of them is called modular scale, and if you go to modularscale.com and check it out, basically you can put in like an ideal text size, pick some ratio, and I think everybody's familiar with the golden ratio, and then hit submit. It'll give you like a list of pixels, of sizings that are that base unit that you put in, and a step up in the golden ratio, in the golden scale, and it just keeps going step up, and then it goes step down. So somebody at Sass made or somebody that uses Sass made a port of that to Sass, and the way to install it and get it going is to do gem install modular scale just in your terminal. Maybe. And then once it's installed, then you just come over here, grab this require modular scale, toss in your config for Sass over here, config RB, and then you import modular scale. So just copy that again, close out of that now, just dump it in up there. Okay, cool. So now that we have that, now we can do things like target that H1 tag and say font size, modular scale, and if we wanted to go 2 up the ladder, then we would say modular scale 2 or MS2. And if we inspect that, we can see that it's gone up to 42 pixels, which is pretty close to what it should be. Cool. So now we've got, you know, this Sassy port or the Sassy plugin working, and you know, let's make the background this really light gray color, a little bit darker so you can see. And you know, now we're doing that in Stylus, so we're able to edit both of these real time and see it updated, which is pretty cool. Anyway, so real quick, I'll show you how quick it is to set up some basic topography. What I'm going to do is wrap this topography in a div, and then I'm going to center that div with a Jeet. Just say center, and I'm going to make it the background of it white so we can see it. Okay, so now what it's doing is that div has a max width of 1400, and if you saw the other tutorial, you'll kind of know how this goes. If you go into Framework and check it out, or if you go into Settings and check it out, you can see that it has a max width of 1410. So anyway, while I'm working on this, I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. Maybe even 700. Alright, just so it fits nicely over there. Okay, cool. So now I can close out a stylus, and let's go ahead and get all kinds of content in here so we can see what's going on as it happens. And in Sublime Text, if you just type in lipsum and then number, like a number behind it, it'll spit out some dummy text for you. So make a p tag here, type in lipsum 10, hit tab, and it spits out 10 words from lipsum, lorem ipsum. Okay, so let's disable that for a second just so you can see what the normalized style looks like out of the box. And it's pretty bad. Like you can tell like the line heights are all messed up, and it's got margins on the top and bottom of everything, and it's just horrible. And I hate it, you hate it, everybody hates it. So this is a quick way to fix that. First, one of the things we can set in modular scale, if we actually click on style sheets and go into modular scale, you can see we can change the base size. So let's go ahead and change the base size of our font to 16 pixels, which it is by default. But we'll just leave that there because we'll start messing around with it later, and you can see how quickly and easily and how flexible this kind of topography is. So then we'll specify our HTML. We want our font size to be that variable base size. And we want our line height to be a modular scale of 1. And so there, that already looks a lot better. something we can do as well, so we can go ahead and apply some stuff to all of these headers. Margin top 0, and to our paragraphs, we can say margin top 0. Okay, let's open back up our stylus file. Give it a margin top of 30 just to push it off the top up there. And give it a padding of 30. Alright, cool. So now let's size all these headers the right way. So what we can do is we can start off with the last one and say font size ms 1.25. If we just say 1, it's just going to give us like the standard size, the base unit size. But if we kick it up just a little bit, if we kick it up just a little bit, then it's just going to make the header a little bit bigger. But what's happening now, Normalize does this thing where they set the sizing or the margins on all of your topography to EMs. So EMs are relative to the size of the font that they're working on. So even though this just got a little bit bigger, that gap that was just like, that big, almost doubled in size, just because EMs are bad for that kind of stuff. But what we can do is keep using this modular scale unit and sizing and do all kinds of cool stuff with it. So we can say margin bottom now, modular scale, and say 0. Okay. And say margin bottom on our paragraphs, we want those to be modular scale of 1. Okay, and we'll go ahead and add another paragraph in there underneath. Okay, so you can already see that looks a lot better. It hasn't taken us any time at all. Like, that's the code that we've written so far. And now I'm just going to quickly go through and size all these headers. So I'll just increase them by 0.25 every time. Wait, that's 2. And okay, so that's kind of what our topography looks like at this point. It doesn't look super great because these are kind of big and bulky, and the line height on them is messed up. You see how I'm highlighting them? And that's because I set the line height in my HTML to this fixed size. So I need to fix that, and remember those EMs that are relative to the size of them is relative to whatever they're working on. Well, let's make these 1.1 EMs. The line height's just a little tiny bit bigger than the actual words. Okay, that looks a lot better. And now what we can do is we can start messing around with the ratio. And by default, it's set to the golden ratio. So all the sizes we're getting are from these pixels. But if we want, we can go and there's a whole slew of ratios that we can mess around with. After the default golden ratio up here, they start off at the biggest one and start going down. So the default one's around like 1.6. So this is about where you're at right now. If you want to make it smaller, go down lower. If you want to make your headers bigger, go up higher. So for instance, if we do the double octave, we can set ratio : colon double octave, and then refresh, and wow, it's huge. So you don't want to use double octave unless like you're working with a really small base font size or something, but yeah, so you want to stick closer to something around 1.6. If you just want to make it a little bit smaller than it was, we can copy and paste the augmented fourth over here. Refresh. If you want to make it a little bit bigger than 1.6, go to like the minor seventh. Switch over here. This is the augmented fourth, and then Control S, and we've automatically changed all of our headers to be, you know, this bigger, nicer size. So that's pretty cool. And like we're using math to calculate these, so like, you know, they go down like in this perfectly straight little line, like, you know, just it's very beautiful topography, and we did it incredibly quickly. And now we can just, you know, grab this, save it somewhere, and you know, we'll have topography for every single Jeet project we work on from now on. So what we can do is just close that, and that's pretty much all I use Sass for. Just as a preference, I like Stylus better, so after I set up some cool stuff with some of their plugins, you know, I just close it and then I go over and start messing around. So let's go ahead and push set a margin bottom as well, push off the bottom there. Okay, so let's say that we just want to make like you know, it's like a little centered blog and like have like a sidebar or something. Go ahead and edit this. So I've got my div here, and we'll change that to an article. Say all this text inside there is an article. Okay, and then we'll wrap that in a div. Okay, and then we'll just make an aside, put a nav in it for navigation. And let's go make another Web Design Tuts Plus knockoff. Let's see, we've got tutorials, articles, tips, sessions, resources, videos, and Tuts Plus Premium. Okay. Now if we go over there, they're all up top. So let's say that we wanted to put these on the outside, and let's say like we wanted to put these on the outside of this white container. What we would do is change this, apply the background of white and the padding. It's like this cool area right here. Apply that to article instead of that wrapping div. And you see we just toss that on the outside. And then our aside, we want to put over here. So here's a cool new thing about Jeet that I kind of ripped off Harry Roberts' Inuit CSS. If you go check out his project on GitHub, and if you haven't used it before, and hang on. Go look at objects grids. He specifies his grids like 1/3 and 2/3 and 1/2 and 1/4, and that's cool, but it's also kind of like limited. Like there's only so many sizes and stuff that you can do. With Jeet, you can put anything you freaking want in there. So for aside, I'm gonna specify, and W stands for like width. So before you would do like columns like that, and specify like 4 columns, or like specify like say 8 columns, and then your article would be like 16 columns, because this is based off of a 24 column grid that you can specify. So like you'd still like have to remember, like, you know, okay, I want this one to take up like 8 out of 24, and I want this one to take up like 16 out of 24, you know, I want this to take up whatever. And, you know, it sucks having to think about stuff. I mean, it works, and, you know, that's fine. And we can check it out and make sure that it works. There. So, you know, we can check it out and make sure that it works and everything's cool. But, it also stinks that, like, you know, we have to memorize numbers and do like a little tiny bit of math in our head. Like, that's horrible. Is this a third world country? So anyway, I'll go ahead and apply some basic style. I know it's just going to stack up. Now what we can do, stealing Harry's idea, we can just type in W for width, and let's say we want to change the size of this aside. And I want to take up 2/5. And then I want that article to take up the rest of them, 3/5. It works. Now, let's make this a little bit bigger so it's a little bit cooler. Okay, now let's say I want that article to take up 1/5. You know, I thought that there's way too much space over here, so I just want it to take up 1/5 now. And I want that aside to take up 1/5, and I want that article to take up 4/5. Well, there you go. I just fixed it, and it was like that easy. And it's still fluid and responsive and everything. Once you get down so far, you know, you'll need to stack these. So I'll say aside and article stack, and there you go. Now they're responsive. So, like, this W mix-in is incredibly powerful. I didn't realize just how cool it was, but I mean, like, you can do anything. Say like 1, 2, 3. Like, you can pass any numbers. So let's say that, you know, 1 was still just a little bit too big. Like, we've still got this big gap over there, and I don't want that big gap. I just want a little bit less. So we'll say like just 0.75 out of 5. No, that's still just a little bit too big. Let's say 0.65. That's still just a little bit too big. 0.5. Alright, that's too much. Let's go back up to just 6. Alright, cool. And now I need to say, okay, well, if I've got 0.6 there, then 4.4 plus 0.6 equals 5. So that'll take up the rest of my space, my out of 5. So I mean, like, you can pass in decimals. You know, you can get that precise with it. I don't know any other framework in the world that can do that, and it's pretty awesome. So anyway, thanks to Harry Roberts for all of his great work with CSS, and it's just this clever idea to use sizing like this, because it is totally awesome. And I've completely stopped using calls and spans. I just don't use them anymore. Now the only thing I use is this width thing, and it's made life even better. So now you have completely responsive sites in, you know, like that amount of code. Internet Explorer 7 Plus. You can use Stylus, you can use Sass, you can watch both of them from the same command, and it's all an NPM package. It takes like 2 seconds to install and start messing with. So I hope you guys learned something and you start using Jeet, and you keep supporting it, and have a good day.